I'm John, and this is my ISTA 322 final project. So the motivation behind my project was it sometimes assumed that an area with a higher average income tends to have better amenities. So I wanted to look at and see if that's true when it comes to things like restaurants. So the goal it was to create a set of data where it'd become easy to compare the average income of an area to the average restaurant rating of that same area. So for data collection, I had two sources. My first source was California tax records. It was a CSV file that I found on data.gov. And this had everything like the total income of the area versus the number of people and the number of people that like returned these. So you could get the average income by doing a few operations. Then I also used the Yelp API pull from what we did in class to get restaurants from certain areas. A challenge that came along with this was the Yelp API poll actually lets you do 20 stores, 20 restaurants per poll. So what I had to do is I had to take from the California tax records each zip code and I had to iterate through every time and search for each zip code and Yelp API so I could get all those restaurants. And then I had to um, concatenate all those data frames at the end. So then for my data cleaning and transformation, I first started out by converting a lot of the number data from objects to integers, and I had to do a little bit of cleaning with getting rid of the commas inside of them so I could get them to numeric things. Um, I had to filter out data which was out of date because there was a lot of stuff going back to like 1992 in those California tax records, and I only cared about the most recent stuff. I had to remove some unnecessary columns like latitude and longitude. There's no real use for those in this case. I had to create new columns with useful metrics. Like I wanted to get the average income per area instead of just the total and the number of returns. And I had to get the average rating for the area. Then I had to remove the null values from stuff and also the things that weren't in range of the zip codes I wanted. I had to group some of those zip codes together to make the data more useful, especially the restaurant data. Add a few more useful columns like average rating per area because those you can't really do that till it's after it's grouped because each restaurant has its own individual. And they had to remove the columns which were unnecessary after the grouping, like average rating or like total number of weighted rating before it's divided by the number of reviews. All right, so then for my t data tables, which are in SQL, the ones here on the left, those I just brought into SQL and then I brought them right back out merged. So then I could kind of deal with the data in there a little more easily. But the ones here on the right, I had three main tables. I had location by zip code, income and rating, and and income and rating both shared a foreign key of zip code with that location by zip code. So it's easy to like look at stuff grouped by city and county when I do the queries, which you'll see just now. So I did things like searching. I can do things with this, like looking at the average income in a city like Beverly Hills, and the average income there is around $550,000 per person. I can look at the number of zip codes in a city to kind of see maybe how big the city is, and then you could apply that to things like what the average restaurant rating is, and you could kind of think about it like there's more people going there, so there might be more accurate restaurant readings. Um, I did, I grouped the average income versus every zip code, and you could look at that and you could sort it and see which zip codes have the highest income per person. Um, I did, you can get the average rating of a restaurant versus its zip code, so you can look at that. And then you can also look at, then my last query was you can look at the cities where the average rating was the highest. So I did an average rating of above 4.5 stars. And then lastly, I plotted the data from this to see like if those average incomes led to a higher average restaurant rating. And according to this plot, it doesn't appear it does. So that could mean this kind of shows that there's not really a correlation between the two. And that's all I have. Thank you.